In the previous video, we were talking about supportive edges, but now let's talk about edge flow. So here I have two examples, and on one, we're gonna just continue from where we left off last time. So what I'm gonna do is just a small extrusion, and I'm gonna add supportive edge loops in the same way that we did on a cube with just loop tool, and add small cuts like this, and a cut here. So basically, our structural edges have their supports. And this is our result. Let's now do something else here. And here what I'm going to do an offset first. This is going to be our supportive edge. And then I'm going to do extrude. And then I'm going to create another supportive edge here. So again, same situation. This edge has two supports, same as here. This edge has two supports. But they're going to behave very differently on subdivision. So basically what is happening here is that the edge flow in this example is not the same as it is here. And the difference here is that this edge looks like this and that this edge looks like this. So basically the difference is this 45-degree angle edge right here. And basically what this edge does, it's actually breaking the flow. So what does that mean? If I would add here, let's say to this example, if I would add a multicut, you would see that this is the flow. This is the flow of the edges. It's fairly straight, and this is simply how it goes. If we come here to the other side, and if I do the same thing, you will see that here the flow is more like a circle. So basically this is just redirecting it in a loop. So this edge is redirecting it in a loop. So what we can do here is we can actually redirect. So meaning that this edge can become this one, and this one can also become this one. So let's see how that works. So I'm going to copy the look from here and just connect this part and delete the parts that I do not need. And there we are. So let's now see what happened. So the results are pretty much the same. And let's now see what happened to the loop here. So again, the loop is no longer straight as it was here. Now it's actually redirected down. So it's not stopping here anymore, it's going down. So basically, this is how we're going to control our edges from now on. So we can now do the same thing here on the other side. I can now redirect this to here, and then that will make this corner sharper. But it will also break the loop. So I'll just delete this, and there we are. So very much similar results. So let's now see a more complex example. So I'm going to unhide here what I have, and I'm going to just focus on this one, actually just hide this one, and let's see what we can get here. So let me just push this to the side. All right, so what's happening here is that we need to focus on this part. Basically, I want to select this and all this on top. So this, everything now that is selected, needs to be contained within a specific area. And what I mean by that is that if we're now going to add supportive edges, let me just enable symmetry. I add my supportive edges right here, same like I did here at the very top. The problem here becomes is that these edges are fine here because they are supporting this edge. But the problem becomes when it meets another detail on the surface like this. So it becomes a problem then because the circle, for example, is no longer a circle. And if you follow that rule that two edges close to one another will create a tension or pinching or basically sharpening of any kind, this is then what we're trying to avoid. So in this case, this edge is not allowed to be here. And if I remove it, we get a circle back. So then this is our circle. So what does that simply means is that this edge needs to stop here or here. It's not allowed to go anymore in this direction. The only problem is now that we have an end gun here and this edge is not going anywhere. So this edge actually needs to close somewhere. And if we think of this, I will just remove this for a second. So if we think of this area right here then, Let me select all of this. So if we think of this area, or even this area here, the same area as this one here, that simply means that we can also use this edge right here to redirect part of the geometry and just stop it in a specific way. So again, let's see what that means. I'm going to add these two edges back. And to make it even more clear, let's say that we have something like this. Maybe now you can easily recognize what is happening here. So this is then the same as this here. And if you remember, what happened is that this edge down, we transformed into this one and changed its flow. Then that simply means that we can do the same thing here. So what we can do now, I will just remove actually this one. And let's now see what we can do. So I will just remove edge from here to here. I will just delete it. And basically what we are missing here then is just this. We just need to draw that shape. Basically what we are drawing is this. I will just show it here as an example. We are just drawing it manually. So this is what we need. And okay, again, went maybe a bit too far. And then if I just delete two parts like so, there we are done. So what we did now is just we redirected this flow to here. So this edge no longer needs to flow all the way to here to come here. We just redirect it with this one. When we talked about that this one will actually redirect the flow. We just redirect the flow to here and contain it within its own area. And there we are. So basically now we don't have that problem anymore. So we can do the same thing here at the side. So I'll just add an edge loop here on the side and add edge loop here on the side, because again, we want, this is our structural edge. We just now need two supported ones. And we can now do the same thing here. So what I'm going to do is just connect this to here and then connect it at the very end to here. And even though that it's looking abstract now, if you can just visualize what is happening, then you can ignore the rest. So this is what is happening. And then we just delete the rest. There we are. So now we have this sorted out as well. The only now thing that is missing is an edge loop here and an edge loop here at the bottom. So now there's additional problem, which technically is not a problem, because to support edge, for support edge to work, you need to have at least one, and two is ideal. So for example, what is happening without the support is you see the stretching, and basically the support loop will prevent that stretching. And there we are. So we have one support loop here, but ideally we would need to have one more here as well, like this. So what we can do is we can draw it manually. So manually it would look like this. If I draw it to here, and if I draw it to here. And for me, I mean, easiest what maybe it is to remember if you just connect these two in a triangle, and then afterwards just snap these two to center. So I will use target weld tool and snap to center. And then we have this. And now we have support edges all over. So basically we would need to repeat that everywhere. Alternative to that, to this manual way, would be if we just remove this one and select these parts like so, and use bevel with chamfer off, and there we are. So now we have everything contained within a specific area, and nothing here is affected. So this is one way, and I would like to show you one other way. So let me just again hide this one and now focus on this one here. So this was one way. Let's now take a look in additional. Let's now start with the bevel this time. So I'm going to select this here, everything that is structural, I'm going to select, and let's bevel this. All right. So we did bevel, But the problem here is that we have two open edges like this. And even if I, let's say, come a few steps back and do bevel chamfer off and try with the uniform, try with the center, still I'm not super satisfied how this looks like, because these are the polygons that we're trying to avoid. These are very, they're simply not giving us the greatest results. So that's something we're trying to avoid. So let's do something else. So I'm going to leave it as it is. And I'm going to use smaller fraction, something like this. And let's now see what's happening. So we have an n-gun here and we have an n-gun here, basically because we have two open edges that actually don't lead nowhere. And if I would continue these edges, they would just go here, here, and then back inside. And this is again something that we do not want. So what can we do with these edges? Well, what we can do is we can connect them to here. And this one we can connect to here. And if I delete this, we will get an opening, and this opening will just show us that this edge can actually be directed to here. And then what we did is basically the same thing as we had here on the top with this. We just redirected the flow one more time. And let's do the same thing on the back. So it's the same if we just created, let's say, this first, to just visualize it a bit better. And then basically this point we just use slide and slide it to here. And this is again what we will call redirection. And again, just so I'm going to delete this one and then connect it here. And then again, delete this one because it's now not necessary. And again, we have a very smooth surface with easy manipulated direction. So this is our direction now. And again, yeah, so I think that is it. And I just want to mention again the difference between the two. So if we compare the two, turn the wireframe on, the difference now between the two is, for example, when to use what. Let's say that you want to create a detail here around, then you will use maybe this flow. Or because simply geometry looks easier and it's simple to create. So maybe then we are creating something like this. And I'm going to select all the edges here, do a small offset to create support loops, hit G to repeat the operation and create thickness, and maybe give it here 2 divisions. And there we are. Now we have here a detail that goes around this option, around this detail on the top. So it just looks then like this is a separate piece from this one. All right, can we now do the same thing here? So basically not, because the flow of edges simply it's not allowing us to do that. Because here the edge flow was, if I now select the loop, you see that it's going in a circle here. But here the flow, it's not going in circle, it's going in this direction. So the circle, basically the flow is going here on top. And let me just quickly do this because since we're here, and then delete these parts, and there we are. All right, so again, we can just select maybe these parts then, or maybe then bevel it. And then we have this situation like so. And let's do extrude with a small offset as a support edge. And then let's do G, small thickness inside. And then let's just put 2 divisions to get supportive edge in that area as well. And then there we are. So it's just 2 different approaches for the same result. And the result is basically that we have supporting edges all over. And depending on which edges and what direction we decide to do, we can also then plan our details ahead, for example. So in this case, we could not create a detail here around, but also in this case, we would not be able to maybe create a detail that goes like this. So it just, again, depends on the approach and what we'll need to create in the future. So it just needs, again, some preparation and planning for a couple of steps ahead. But yeah, more or less, I think that I covered everything that I wanted to talk about for now. And in the next video, we're going to go a bit more into detail and see a couple of more options and what else we can do with the redirection. And also I'm going to talk about the most commonly used redirection methods. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.